Hello, welcome back to Justin Talks Villa. This is the warm down, the Crystal Palace reaction video. Where do we start? Well, let's just start with the game, I think. And then we'll have a chat about everything else after. We'll bring up the stats. It's not going to be the same as what I normally do because there's so much to talk about off the field, and it's such an important day with the transfer window closing, with so many issues happening off the pitch that I'm just going to quickly go over the game. Nobody needs reminding how poor it was. I mean, some basic statistics here. This is the momentum bar, which is, again, totally dominated by Villa. The green is Villa's momentum, but there is still no cutting edge. There is still no output in the goals column. Third game, no goals. Watkins is just basically non-existent up top. He's isolated. The three in behind that we've all been crying out for. The team selection was pretty much bang on what I wanted. And they didn't deliver, did they? They looked devoid of ideas. They looked totally shot confidence-wise. The body language, which was poor. Everything that's happened this summer has led us to this point, and we have really, really got to take stock over these next 2 weeks in this international break, because we simply cannot carry on the way we are. 2 defeats and a draw this season. Dare I say, against not the most difficult of opposition. Yes, Palace have had our number recently, but they have lost big players this summer, and we still got thumped by them at home. Newcastle were in disarray when they turned to Villa Park and, should have probably won the game. And then we lost away at Brentford, who again have been dismantled this summer by losing their manager and many of their key players. So it has been as bad as it probably could have been in the first 3 games of the season. And last night's defeat, meek rolling over against Crystal Palace, is a hard one to take. I generally didn't see a 3-0 coming. Maybe I should have done, really, but just so disappointing. If we look at the statistics of the game, then it's not great again, is it? We had most of the possession, which we've seen quite a lot this season, 58% to their 42%. But, their expected goals was much bigger. They created 4 big chances. We created 2. Ollie Watkins fluffed his lines when he was clean through. I think he should have done better with that chance. 13 shots. It's, incredible. I mean, you look at these efforts on goal. I don't know, wide at goal. I don't understand it. Keeper's made 4 good saves for them. I don't know. Maybe if we'd have scored one of the earlier chances we had 10 corners as well. 10 corners. They had 1. I mean, it's almost pretty pointless me going over it, to be honest, because it's almost irrelevant, to be honest, with what's happening off the pitch. So the big talking point, I can't talk about the game anymore. Let's forget the game. It was awful, woeful, disgraceful, disgraceful 90 minutes from the players. And I think they need to take a good hard look at themselves. Yes, it's been a terrible summer, and yes, they are all feeling it and all disappointed and all want us to be in a much better position, as the fans do. But the glaring omission from the team last night was Emi Martinez, and that was a real tough one to take for me. I am, and like many Villa fans, a massive Emi Martinez fan, and have loved every minute that he's been at Aston Villa. I think he's been fantastic for us. But I have to say, I think he's totally misjudged what's happening currently. I think we all can see now that the last game of last season, he was basically saying goodbye. So I can only imagine that this Manchester United move has been in the pipeline well before the season ended. that he knew what was coming. He knew what he wanted to do. He wanted to go to Manchester United. He's been tapped up by them. He's been offered God knows what to go there, because I can't still in my brain can't compute why Manchester United are currently a better option for him than Aston Villa. They've got a manager that wouldn't be look out of place in an under-9s team. They have spent heavily in the summer, yet are still struggling. They finished in the low teens last season, 15th, 16th. They are a mess off the pitch, yet Emi Martinez seems to think that is a better option for him now than the club that effectively gave him everything. We rescued him from Arsenal's reserves. He was there for 9 seasons. He played 38 games for Arsenal in 9 seasons. He had loans to Oxford, Sheffield Wednesday, Rotherham, Wolves, Getafe and Reading in that period, where he played another 64 games in 9 seasons. So before he signed for Aston Villa, he played 104 times in his whole career in nearly 10 years in England. He came to Villa in 2020. Within 12 months, he was making his international debut for Argentina. And we all know what's happened since. He's played 50-odd games for Argentina. He's won 2 Copa Americas and the World Cup. He's been voted the Yashin Trophy winner for 2 seasons in a row as the best goalkeeper in the world. He's won multiple accolades at all these major international tournaments. And he's become a legend at Aston Villa. Well, he would have become a legend at Aston Villa, but he's decided to do what many players have done over the years, and he's decided to throw all that away to leave. And it is bitterly, bitterly disappointing. I do think this, honestly. I very rarely get annoyed at players, but I'm really annoyed at Emi Martinez. We've put so much effort into him as a fan base. We've given him everything. Every time he's been Emi Martinez and been a bit of a shithouse, we've backed him. Every time he's been in the press for reasons which he shouldn't have been, we've backed him. And we've given him a platform as a football club to become one of the greatest goalkeepers in the world. How does he repay us? He walks out on us. But that's fine. I don't want him back at Villa now. I'm done with him. Once a player says he doesn't want to be at a club, then they have to move. I don't care who they are. I don't care what they've done. They have to go. Quite frankly, now, if you offered me Robin Olsen in goal or Emi Martinez for the season, I'd take Robin Olsen. Very simple. Loyalty in football, we know, isn't a thing. And again, we've been proven right. Because we, the fans, are left to pick up the pieces, as we are going to have to do now with the football club, with what's happening off the pitch. This transfer window has been monumentally debilitating for every single fan. And it seems the players, the coaching staff, the management, the financial team, the transfer team, every single aspect of the football club has been affected by what's happened this summer. Should we have seen it coming? Maybe. Why has it happened? Because we've shown ambition. The owners, when they came in, said they had a plan, like many owners do, to progress us. They wanted us to be in Europe within 5 years, which we achieved. Champions League, that seemed a pipe dream when we got promoted, was achieved. How was it achieved? Because we maxed out wages. Because where we were from a starting point as a football club, the only way to entice better players, which is what we all wanted, we all want to see the best players play for Aston Villa. And the only way we could get those in at the time wasn't for the pull of playing in Europe, because we wasn't in Europe, wasn't for the pull of being a trophy-winning team and to be able to offer players the chance to win things, which is why Jack left. It was purely financial. We had to offer these players the best wages we possibly could. So we maxed out our wages. That's why our squad cost ratios were in the mid to high 90s compared to our revenue. So effectively, we ran before we could walk. Instead of a slow growth, we went for accelerated growth. And as we know, through what happened during the Chris Heck era, the only way to try and bridge that gap was to bring the revenue streams quickly into level playing field with the wages. And the way that was done was massively increasing ticket prices by trying to blast sponsorship deals, just Adidas deal, sacking off Castore for Adidas halfway through a season. All these things that we know have happened, why they happened, was to try and bridge that financial gap, to try and bring the revenue up, to allow us to spend more money on wages so we didn't fall foul. And yes, the Champions League qualification was much, much needed, but it was too soon, seemingly, because once we got qualification for the Champions League, we had to double down on the wages. We had to bring better players in. We had to find players that wanted to represent us and that could give us those amazing nights like against Bayern Munich. That's what we wanted. That's what we've been dying for. That's what I've been dying for as a football fan, as a fan of Aston Villa for decades. And it was all happening. It was all opening up in front of our eyes. Better players were arriving. And the better players we had were getting bigger deals. They were getting rewarded for their brilliance, for pushing us on, for qualifying Europe in the first season when Emery took over, for going to the Champions League. They were being rewarded with bigger contracts, better contracts, because we not only wanted to bring better players in, we didn't want to lose the players we had. How do you do that? You give them better contracts, bigger wages. And now we are, because of that last day defeat at Manchester United and other results last season, it can't all just be put down to one game, because had we have picked up better results against Bournemouths and the teams that we didn't win against last season, we could have got Champions League again. But unfortunately, missing out on the Champions League has been the catalyst to what has happened and unfolded this summer. It shouldn't have been a surprise to us, but it is. We were warned what was coming by Damien Vidagani. I've said it multiple times. The speech he gave at the end of season awards should have set alarm bells ringing, but it didn't. We all just thought, okay, it's going to be a tough summer. We've got to sell a few players just to get on the right side of things again, to sort the finances out. Because to be brutally honest, none of us really understand it. We don't. Very few people understand it, because the club can't come out and tell us exactly the situation we're in. Because if they tell the fans, they then tell everybody. And as a business that relies on buying and selling, they can't just, it's like playing cards and showing the rest of the people you're playing with your cards. You can't do it. It's just, it can't happen. So all round, we're in this situation now we find ourselves in, where we've had to try and circumnavigate PSR. So we did that by selling the women's team, but we only sold it for a fraction of what Chelsea sold their women's team for, because you can only sell it for fair market value. And Chelsea's women's team is a high achiever in the Women's Super League. So they was able to sell it for a premium price, which has obviously helped their issues this summer. Plus, they've had a squad packed full of players which they've been accruing for the last 3 or 4 years, as we all know, on huge amounts of salaries and huge transfer fees. So they've been able to ship out quite a lot of those players this summer for big fees, which has allowed them to rotate their squad. And we can't do that. We've got through the PSR issues by selling the women's team, but the big one, the squad cost ratio, the 80% down to 70% eventually, is biting hard. We know that. We've lost a lot of players, but realistically, we haven't made a lot of money on the transfers. I think we're only about. I'll try and get up the. I'll bring up the. Right, so this is Valuable, which is Kieran Maguire's website. So this is the revenue. So as you can see, from 2018 to 2019, our revenue was 54 million. It's jumped to 113, 184. We had a slight setback in 21-22 to 169. And then 22, 23 was 212. And then this season, it has been 26. Last season, 23, 24 was the best one yet, 276 million. So what they've done off the pitch in increasing our revenue has been phenomenal, but it still hasn't been enough because the growth of the first team squad and wages we've had to spend, they haven't had to spend, they chose to spend. This is the issue. We've had owners. Let me just make this very categorically clear. The owners didn't have to do what they've done. And yes, their decisions have put us in this position. But do we blame them? Do I blame them? No, because what did we all want when they came in? We wanted owners that wanted success. We wanted owners that had deep pockets and were prepared to push the club forward. So what would we have done if they'd have got promoted and not spent on players, not brought in better players, not pushed us on, not hired Unai Emery, who I believe is the second highest paid manager in the Premier League? What would we have said if they didn't want to push us on? We wanted this. As a fan base, everybody wants better players. And now we're all moaning, or a certain percentage of the fan base are moaning, because they've made poor decisions. Nobody was moaning when we was buying all these players. Nobody moaned last January when Asensio and Rashford turned up. Everyone was chuffed. But now they are, because they're saying we've overspent. We shouldn't have done this. We shouldn't have done that. It's great with hindsight. I think we've got to realise where we are and what we've got to do now. So this is the revenue breakdown. But this is what I was talking about as far as the transfer situation. So our net spend, so if we look at just this season alone, right, this is the correct graphic now. So this is our last 5 seasons. We've spent 543 million and we've recruited 482. So there's a net spend of 60 million there, which is ridiculous over 5 seasons. 60 million, 12 million pound a season we've spent. But because the revenue isn't high enough, we're now being absolutely shafted. So if we just look at this summer, for example, of what we've had to do, we've brought in 52 and we've spent 37. So we're 15 million pound in profit. But if you look at, it doesn't show every single player, it's just the players that are got for money. So Ramsey, Kessler Hayden, Baronchella, Bailey, Marshall. Bailey was obviously a loan with a view to a permanent. And we brought in Gassan and Ozcan, who has obviously left. So the net spend is in positive. But the big issue this summer was wages. So we've got to bring the wages down to 80, then to 70. And here's where the bad news is. We're going to still be in this position next summer. Things won't improve next summer. But weirdly, not qualifying for Europe next year will help us. Why? Because the Premier League squad cost ratio is 85%. So you get more leeway. The European squad cost ratio, if we're in Europe, is 70%. So we've got a 15% more leeway with no Europe. So if we're in Europe, we have to be 70%. If we're not in Europe, we can be 85 because we're only adhering to the Premier League rules. So dare I say it, for one season, it'll probably benefit us to not be in Europe next season. But we will still to be held to account for the football earnings rule. So to get this correct, the football earnings rule is the UEFA version of the PSR. And the UEFA version is we can only have £50 million of losses, whereas the PSR Premier League rules is we can have £105 million worth of losses over a 3-year period. I believe it's a rolling 3-year period still. So that tells you we can't lose more than £50 million over a rolling 3-year period. So how do we do that? We've already seen the squad now looks pretty threadbare. And the honest answer is I don't know. The powers that be, the financial people at the club, the transfer team, they're the ones who are going to have to dissect where we're at. Where am I at? I think, sadly and brutally, where I'm at is this is a huge reality check for Aston Villa Football Club. We've got brilliant owners that want to spend. I still believe we've got a very good coaching setup. We've got really good people in the back room that are looking after what we're doing, but they're having to do it under hugely restrictive situations and circumstances. They can't go out and get who they want to get. We're having to cut our cloth massively accordingly to how much we can spend. Every single detail of every single transfer has to be gone over with a fine-tooth comb to make sure it is okay within these rules that we have signed up to compete under. I have a lot of sympathy for the owners who have done a lot for us. I have a lot of sympathy for the transfer team who are trying their best under difficult circumstances. And I have a lot of sympathy for Unai Emery, who didn't sign up for this when he came in to Aston Villa. But it's us, the fans, that are once again going to have to bear the brunt of this. We've got to have to. And I'm now accepting. We had a caller on the first week of the phoning show that said he thinks we're going to finish 12th. And I thought that's not going to happen. But I think the reality is that's probably where we're at now. We are back in the pack. We're pushed down the table. We are going to have to try and compete for the next couple of seasons at least, back to where we were when we first got promoted, and probably the season after that, or maybe just before I came in, we were around. I know we was poor under Gerrard 17th, but we've got to hope that the squad is capable of getting us around the 10th mark. That's the brutal reality of it now. It's pointless me trying to sugarcoat it. I am a very positive person, but I think getting Europe again is going to be very, very difficult, especially given the start we've had. So what I think is important now is we don't jeopardise the future of Aston Villa Football Club. We don't put ourselves in a position where we could get relegated again. That can't happen, because as much as we all thought at the time that was a place we could reset and come back, the brutal reality of going down is we put ourselves in even more financial problems, and our squad would be utterly decimated to a point of we couldn't even recognise it where we are now. And we're already, nowhere near where we were last season. So this is where I'm at. We've just got to accept it. We've made bad decisions, which were done in all honesty, and I think they did it in what they thought was the best interest of Aston Villa, to try and give us the best chance to compete. And it's backfired, and we're going to have to now cut our cloth. We're trying to do things off the pitch. The warehouse will open, the North Stand will be redeveloped, and we will still bring players in, but we're going to have to make sure that we are very careful with what we do over the next 18 months, 2 years. Can we keep hold of Unai Emery? I hope so. I don't know what the future holds there, but I hope we can, because I still think he's the right man for the job. I think the players have got to be professional now. We know there's not much loyalty in football, but they're all being paid handsomely. They've all got jobs to do. And if that's what it is to them, great. I love it if they're passionate about Aston Villa. I hope they are. I hope they love it. I hope they love where they are and the chance they've got to represent us. But what we've seen in the first 3 games has to be put to bed now. When we return after this international break, with whatever the squad looks like, they have to be mentally and physically prepared for what's to come. We all know the squad has got issues. The defence hasn't been addressed. Victor Lindelof, is he the answer? Probably not. If I'd have told you this last week that we're going to sign a central defender, he wouldn't even been in a 1% of people's answers. But again, it's making the decision based on finances. So it's an extra body. He can help out, hopefully. The Asensio deal, which I have been absolutely destroyed for on social media, was almost a done deal. That's the mistake I made. Almost. Shouldn't have said a word until it is done. But Villa backtracked. 15 million that the PSG wanted, Villa went back and said, we're not paying it. We want him for nothing. Again, pushed via financial constraints. If they could have got him on a free, that would have paid his wages. That would have allowed us a bit more wiggle room in the market. I totally understand the thought process about it, but the change of heart at the 11th hour scuppered the deal and has put me in absolute hammered territory on social media. And I tell you now, if you're watching this and you're one of the people that's attacked me on social media, shame on you. I'm a big boy. I can take it. Honestly, I doubt if any single one of you would come up to me personally and say that. Shame on you. The Ramsey deal. I think he was totally within his rights to ask for what he felt he deserved at Villa. But Villa had to make a decision based on what they felt he was worth. The two were far apart. There was no coming together. Villa wasn't going to budge. Ramsey wanted what he wanted. And the only way that was ever going to be resolved was a parting of the ways. Newcastle felt he was worth what he wanted. They came in and signed him. That's as simple as that deal is for me. That's black and white. He wanted this. Villa wanted to pay him this. He was never going to get to a compromise. So eventually he had to go. Nobody goes without wanting to go, I don't believe. I don't. This financial constraints led to this deal happening. Should we have had no financial constraints, I firmly believe the Villa might have decided to compromise with him and they could have met somewhere in the middle. That was never going to happen and he was always going to go. The only issue going forward now is, can we put a squad together that is capable of competing in the Premier League to a point where we're not going to be dragged into a real battle down the bottom end? Still believe we have a decent enough first 11. Can we put a squad together that can compete with the rigours of a long, arduous season? And we've got European qualification competition to deal with as well. Very difficult. We've seen that even with a bigger squad. We've seen that. So what I'm asking for of the players is professionalism. I'm asking for Unai to believe in himself again, to let the players breathe again, to go away, have a real good think. And then when they come back together for the Everton game, we need to be ready. We need to be united as a fan base, united as a club. It's going to be a tough couple of years, at least. We've tried to compete at the top, but we know it's a closed shop. We know that we wasn't ready for it. We tried our hardest. I do applaud the owners for what they've tried to do, but they've hit a brick wall. And now we've had to cut our cloth. That's what's happened. I hope I haven't rabbited on too much. I appreciate everybody's message that's messaged me. I'm a passionate Aston Villa fan that loves this club, and all I want to do is see us succeed. But I don't want to be in a position where we put our club that we all love in jeopardy of not being here like it was under Tony Gia. That can't happen again. We need to keep the owners happy because we need them to continue to help us, because if they go, we are in catastrophic territory. We need Unai to believe in what he's doing again, to go away and redouble down on his efforts. And I implore every single player that is on our payroll, when that window shuts at 7 o'clock on Monday tonight, to put every ounce of effort in. Even if you were unhappy with what's happened this summer, that's fine. But you are a professional footballer paid to do a job, ultimately. I know that's oversimplifying it, but that's what you are. We love you all. We hope for the best from you, and we want the best from you. But as a football club, we've got to try now and compete. We need to see more from all of you, each and every single one of you. We need to see more of you. We need that passion back. We need that desire. We need that burning. We need to see Rodgers rampaging again with the ball. John McGinn. We need Mings' leadership back. We need Watkins banging the goals in again. We need all these things to happen. So please, if anyone is watching this, that's all we're asking for. 100% effort, passion, determination. Put your misgivings about what's happened, any issues with what's gone on in the pre-season, we all need to put them away and come together, and we need to start at Everton. Okay? I know it's been a bit different today, but I felt a lot of that needed saying. I think I've covered everything I wanted to. I've no idea how the window's going to go. Yeah, I think I've covered everything. I think I've been fair. I think I've been honest. So let me know what you think. I don't want to jump in the comments and feel sorry for me. It's fine, honestly. I know what I signed up for when I decided to do this. So it's been disappointing, some of the comments from some people especially, but it is what it is. They're the ones who've got to live for themselves after this. I'm quite happy with who I am and what I am. Speak to you all soon. Up the Villa.